right there, folks. This is Dan with CLV Boost, and in this brief CLV Boost tutorial, we're going to talk about hard and soft promotional strategies with email marketing. Often when we speak with clients, it seems as though their perception of email marketing and selling with email is either you're sending emails that are helpful or educational or relevant updates, or you're pitching something in a way that's overt and brash and is going to turn people off. Really, we like to see the promotional spectrum as just that, having different sort of interim points in terms of how intense and how overt your actual promotional efforts are. And interestingly enough, it's often possible to both build a great relationship and provide people with fantastic educational content and sell at the same time, making products seem sort of like an extension of education more so than something pushed down anyone's throat. And for that reason, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the spectrum notions that we talk about with respect to email marketing and bring up some of these concepts so that you can apply them in your own business. The reason this video will be helpful is because if you'd like the ability to be able to really turn up a promotion and drive sales when you need it with email, in other words, use email as a lever to move revenue up, which many of our clients sort of need in their business in some way, shape, or form, then this video will ultimately be helpful for you. But probably more importantly, if you'd like to understand how to develop a consistent regimen that'll help you build long-term relationships with your individual customer segments or prospect segments, and at the same time sell as almost a side effect, then this will be a helpful video to understand some of the tools to allow you to do that. So I'm going to talk about the 5 basic kinds of promotional content, or the scale of promotional content that we can send to our email list. The nitty-gritty and nuances of this can go deeper, but I've basically broken it down to the 5 core types of material that we can send out in an email, from sort of hardest to softest in terms of our promotional approach. What often is associated with promoting with email or selling with email is a purely promotional pitch without any kind of necessary content or education. So if we're talking about this top part here, this is the hardest of the hard when it comes to email promotions. This would essentially be sending someone with an email explicitly talking about a sales page, straight to a sales page. Whether this is if you run a consultancy and you need to sell people on the phone or sell them in-person appointments, this would be explicitly driving them to appointment or explicitly driving them to call you to set an appointment, with really nothing else in between. If this is a product and you sell in e-commerce, this would be sending them straight to a sales page where they can read about what you got, they can see the features, and they can press the little buy button down here, and they can purchase. So this is, again, this is sort of the hardest scale of promotional material that you can send out is purely pitch. In other words, get on the phone, let's get on an appointment, or hey, it's time to get that credit card out and buy. As a sidebar, this doesn't necessarily need to be worded in any kind of aggressive or abrasive way, but it just happens to be an email that isn't about educating, it's not about content, it's really explicitly about a particular offer. There are email lists that do very little but this. That's a very difficult way to build a long-term relationship with your email list. And so I highly recommend mixing this in with some of the other strategies, especially depending on your business. But this is one of many potential tools in the sales arsenal. Some of these every now and again, when it comes to holiday promotions or individual specials or anything with limited spaces or something along those lines, can be sent out to an email list of selling any kind of product or service, and not necessarily come across as spam, of course, so long as it's a relevant promotion to that particular segment. But it's not fantastic to use in and of itself. And some folks are of the belief that it's really pure education with absolutely no opportunity to buy, or purely purchase driving with no opportunity for education, that are sort of the 2 poles that you have to come from. But really, there's a lot of wiggle room here in between. So let's look at some of these examples, and I'm going to flesh out what some of these might look like and some examples we've actually used in our own businesses or our clients' businesses, so that you can imagine how you can apply these same strategies for yourself. So promotional pitch with content or education along with it. Sometimes this might be, for example, some semblance of a sales page that's essentially introducing a new product. Maybe let's say you sell hiking gear online. We've dealt with plenty of folks that sell physical goods on the web who've come to us. So if you deal with some kind of hiking equipment, you may very well have some semblance of a sales page on your site that that demonstrates some of the uses and potential applications of your new tent or whatever the device might be. Maybe interesting pictures and sort of ways that this tent could be useful or lessons that folks could learn about camping from using certain kinds of equipment. But ultimately, it really is a pretty straightforward sales page. But at the same time, people are able to learn, people are able to educate themselves about what you're selling and maybe even learn something separate from just purchasing your product on that sales page. So this is kind of the 4 out of 5 where there's nuggets to be gleaned. There's something other than, hey, buy this. But at the same time, ultimately the education is geared towards the sale. The slightly toned down version of that is having an educational snippet on top of a traditional sales page. So in this case, as an example, we might have an e-commerce page, or we might have a page that aims to sell folks on getting on an appointment. So again, if you're a law firm, if you're a consultancy, if you're a marketing agency, you're not selling with e-commerce. No one's paying you 20 grand by pressing buy now and getting in on a consulting arrangement. They got to get on the phone. So you might have a page that's essentially selling them on the appointment, or if you are selling via e-commerce, let's say you're selling software, you're selling digital goods, whatever the case may be, then you've got your sales page. So essentially you have your sales page. The whole purpose of the sales page is to get folks to buy. In this particular gradient here, this third option down, we would have some kind of an educational snippet up at the top. So we would send folks to this page, letting them know essentially that there's this educational snippet. So we would let them know, let's say we're dealing with the hiking gear again, for a random example, okay? This might be a complete video about how to batten down your tent when it's very windy outside in different weather conditions or something along those lines. You might have some expert present some very relevant nuances and details about exactly how to do just that. It's something that would be awful handy. And maybe they mention the product in the educational video, but really it's an entire self-contained educational snippet that is valuable, digestible, and useful in and of itself. If you're a marketing agency, what you might have up here, okay, above your appointment form page, would be something about, if you deal with Facebook, for example, you might have something about Facebook marketing strategies, so selecting images and testing headlines. You might have a basic 7-minute video. I really don't recommend in most circumstances having these much longer than 7 minutes, but you might have a 5 to 7 minute video up here about fundamental criteria for split testing your images and split testing your headlines when you're running Facebook ads on mobile, for example, okay? And that might be an educational snippet. And then down below, you might say, hey, if you're interested in learning more about this or even having us handle your Facebook marketing, you can book us here. So this kind of content can be promoted via an email with no mention of the actual sales page. And you can just count on the folks who are interested maybe staying around the page, moseying down and kind of seeing what else is going on, and they can see there's a related offer, and they can take you up on it, whether that's booking an appointment, purchasing a product, whatever the case may be. So again, this is even lower on the gradient. This isn't necessarily putting anything down anyone's throat in the same way that maybe this can come across. And by the way, it of course doesn't need to come across as aggressive in terms of how you use your wording, but this can be promoted as content. The entire email, you don't have to mention any kind of selling. And above this line on the page, you don't really mention selling either, but the folks who mosey down do have the chance to buy. These two here, okay, what we might call 4 and 3 in this particular scale of hard to soft promotions, work particularly well for testimonial-driven content, okay? So if you have a sales page that also includes a lot of case studies and success stories from previous clients, which we do on CLV Boost, will often feature, hey, this person worked with us for 8 months and doubled their revenue, or this person added, 6 figures to their top line revenue in the first 12 months of working with us using these email strategies, whatever the case may be. If you're integrating testimonials, which are interesting and educational in and of themselves, into your selling, this can often be sort of blended in there into your actual sales page. You can blend your case studies, your success stories, your client testimonials with some educational material into your selling effort. Or you can do an actual featured case study. So we talked about having the educational video at the top of the sales page. This can be a success story. It doesn't have to be a pitch. It doesn't have to be, hey, I learned so much from these folks and you should pay them too. buy, it doesn't have to be that at all. It can be folks who explain why they're satisfied with your product or service, but also talk about what they did to improve their condition. How this camping gear helped them to get to the top of Kilimanjaro, or how this Facebook marketing strategy, how they applied it to marketing their weed whacker service in Minnesota, and ended up doing so much better and driving so many new leads for their lawn care service, whatever the case may be. So these testimonials can often be educational in and of themselves, and so you can provide social proof along with education. And so these two are highly conducive to the integration of testimonials. If you are not right now in any way, shape, or form using social proof testimonials, case studies with your email promotions and combining with your sales efforts online, you're generally doing yourself a disservice. More or less any business can get some semblance of a lift in terms of conversion rate, some sense of higher engagement that they would with general sort of promotions when they can integrate social proof and case studies. People do, of course, want to know that it's worth investing with you. And these are often sort of the two best options thereof. We'll talk about the next one down. This is purely educational content with relevant peripheral calls to action. Well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to explain this very quickly here, folks. Let's say that we have an article. All right, we're sending folks to an article. Maybe it's a video, whatever the case may be. If it is a video, an educational video, that's fine. What we can do here, and then we've got an article. So just bear with my horrible artistic skills here. What we can do here is, if this is a video about, again, let's say that we're selling camping equipment. This is a video about preparing foods and rations for camping. We might have on the right-hand sidebar, and this might follow the reader as they move down, or we might have something, just a little banner at the bottom, or maybe a banner at the top. We could do all three, but maybe we'll just do, let's say, two of them, a small banner at the bottom and a small banner at the side that mentions our complete rations superstore on our camping website. So we're sending them to an article, which is a video, and an entire article, maybe 700 words, 1,000 words, all about rations and food prep for long camping journeys, all right? And we don't mention anything about promotion in the email. We just tell them, hey, we have this great article, and a lot of folks have learned a lot from these basic tips, and here's the 5 fundamentals you need to know about food preparation before your next big hike or mountaineering journey, or whatever the case may be. And now we have these peripheral banners on the sides. So some folks will say, oh man, I really don't want to just pitch my email list. I don't want to do that. Well, you completely don't need to. In fact, by sending them to fantastic content with light and non-pushy calls to action to take the next step if they're ready, really you're not having anybody take a step that they're not willing to take by themselves. They're going to read your content. If it's good enough for them to want to trust you and buy from you, they will. And maybe they're not in the mood that day, and that's fine. But by doing this, you do what we call keeping the buying door open. So this might be the most important concept of this video. We're about to wrap up, so I'm going to make this relatively brief here. But the concept of keeping the buying door open is a very, very important concept. It's important for everybody listening in to understand that when you have an email list, you're very far from having 100% open rate on your emails. Okay, most of you tuned in right now are somewhere between 8% and 22% or something like that. I would wager that maybe 90% of the people who will ever watch this video are within that range of average email engagement, okay, in terms of open rate. Now, with that being said, if you're somewhere, let's be optimistic and let's say 20%, okay, 1 in every 5 emails gets opened. If that's your reality, and every now and again, let's say twice a month, you send out a promotional email, you are missing a huge swath of your email list who will never even know that you ever promoted anything, and will never know that you have anything to promote. So if you're only sending newsletters with no sales material, and then every now and again you're spicing in a pitch, those spiced in pitches are being exposed to tiny little micro segments of your list and are really not coming across to the entirety of the list. So what we like to do, and we like to encourage clients to do, is mix in your educational emails, mix in what you do to bring value to your email list with lighter promotional efforts that are peripheral on the pages that you're sending people to. So if you're continuously sending to your blog, make sure that your blog has banners on the top or the bottom, or some kind of reference links in the middle that will allow people to take the next step forward towards a product or a service that relates to that content. Don't just send content with no opportunity to buy, content with no opportunity to buy, content with no opportunity to buy, and then every now and again pitching them. That's going from the 1 to the 5 and oscillating between these two. Really, the majority of content should be hanging out in here for most businesses, okay? For most businesses. There's always going to be exceptions, and your cadence and your hardness or softness per your business and industry, and maybe even per your brand, will vary your strategy. But really, just staying here is a very, very weak place to be in terms of education if you ever want to make sales. So by keeping the buying door open, which is creating great content that still allows for a promotional next step forward, which is soft, it's non-pushy, but it will still make sales. This permits you to sell every single email that you send without ever coming across like you're just trying to shove products down people's throats. You can have your focus be great content and great engagement and great relationship with your email list, and just give them the peripheral opportunity to buy. Let them do it by their own permission, and people will thank you for that. So we highly, highly, highly recommend this strategy, which we might call number 2, okay, over exclusively selling number 1. Purely educational email would be some kind of a message that maybe sends to a blog or a video, and there is absolutely nowhere on that page that anyone could buy anything, even if they were really hot to trot that day. Does this serve a purpose from time to time? Yes, this is what we call keeping the buying door closed. There are certain instances and certain industries, again, if you're a lawyer or you're selling something massively high ticket or a very sensitive service, you may want to come across as being very far from aiming to sell when things first start off. But generally speaking, most of your educational content we like to keep in this realm as opposed to purely in number 1. So hopefully this video has been helpful for everybody. In addition to just sending pure education or sending pure pitch emails, for lack of better terms, think of your promotional efforts as a spectrum and use some of the ideas that we've talked about today to experiment with selling your own products and services. And remember to leave a comment or subscribe to our videos and let us know how they worked out for you. Or if you have other ideas that you'd like to dabble around with, we're always open to learning and listening in to our own subscribers and tuning into what you folks have to say as well. So look forward to being in touch, and I'll catch you on the next CLV Boost tutorial.